It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And good morning all across the John Fredericks Radio Network. It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We are indeed broadcasting live from our studios in downtown Nashville. In studio with us, our very good friend, Grant Sterrett, who's the head of the Federalist Society here in Tennessee. Welcome, Grant.
Glad to be here.
And, of course, there's a lot more to you. We'll talk about that in a bit. But right now, it's time for the Morning Rundown. The Morning Rundown is brought to you every day at this time by our very good friends at the Glock Store, glockstore.com, located right here in Nashville, and, of course, the number one provider of Glock accessories in the country. All right, here we go. The Morning Rundown for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. Number one, Ukraine. It's escalating. This is the parting gift that Joe Biden is giving to President Trump. They shot some missiles into Russia. Now they say they're going to use landmines. Oh, Russia sent some missiles back. Not a good thing. Number two, hey, we're going to talk in great detail with our guest, Grant Sterrett, about this. The Dogecast is coming. Look, podcast one. So, as you know, Vivek Ramaswamy, our buddy, and Elon Musk have combined to form the Department of Government Efficiency. It's not really a department, but it's kind of a commission type thing that's going to work with the OMB to get rid of $2 trillion from the federal deficit. There's an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal we're going to talk about. And but also they're going to be doing the Dogecast. Elon and Vivek are going to be talking about how to cut money and cut regulations from the federal deficit. That will be fun. Number three, Linda McMahon has been nominated to be Secretary of Education. That's going to be very interesting. By the way, our buddy Kane, Glenn Jacobs, mayor of Knox County, we've got a clip we're going to play in hour two. She was at WWE. He was at WWE. He actually, literally picked her up and threw her on the floor. It's called the move is called the Tombstone. Yeah. You know that move?
Yeah.
Anyway, we got the video. It's hilarious. So the potential future governor of Tennessee tombstoning the likely Secretary of Education live in hour two. You'll see it. Okay, number four, Bill Hagerty for Treasury. You think? Yeah, I told you he was down there watching the SpaceX launch in Texas with Elon and Donald Trump. It was Howard Lutnick versus Scott Bessent, the hedge fund guy who's Steve Bannon thinks should be the guy. But now Bill Hagerty's back on the list. What could possibly go wrong with that? He'd be a great Secretary of Treasury. You know what the problem is? Trump is worried. He's worried about what kind of non-MAGA guy Bill Lee might appoint to governor, as senator. Are you available to be senator?
I'm available. I'm over 35, right? Or no, 30 for the Constitution senator, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I think that might do the trick. All right. Number five, is Tren de Aragua in Tennessee cities or not? The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says it is, but the chief of police in Knoxville says, I don't see any Tren de Aragua here. I'd go with TBI on that one. Number six, hey, we're going to have a real detailed discussion of the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, which is a fascinating topic. And one, Grant, our guest, you've written about that previously.
I have, yes.
We got to get rid of that thing. Okay, there you go. That's the Morning Rundown for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. It's brought to you by our friends at the Glock Store. They moved here to Nashville from San Diego, California, in 2020, and they started listening to the radio, and they liked what I said, and they said, we don't want to listen to gold-plated NPR that's anti-Second Amendment, that's funded by the federal government. We want this guy to stay on the air, and so we're going to sponsor him, and they've been sponsoring us ever since. Glockstore.com. They've been here since 2020. Lenny McGill, the most famous former singing waiter in America, I think. Right, that's how he got to start, as a singing waiter. Great guy. And you can tell he does his commercials here. He sounds like a guy with a great voice. Basically, they have been sponsoring us ever since they moved here. And I got to tell you, as a longtime radio guy, it's wonderful to have these steady sponsors. So if you like this program, you should go to glockstore.com, visit, sign up for their interesting and informative sales letters. At the bottom of the website, you'll learn all about their great products and services, and as importantly, you'll be helping the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. There we go. That's the morning rundown for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. Grant Starrett, welcome.
Glad to be here.
You are here in studio.
I am.
And we have covered your previous political involvements. Now, you've got a terrific background. You've been educated by the greatest 19th century robber barons
That's
around,
right. That's right. Stanford and Vanderbilt.
So you went to Stanford,
Guess
undergrad.
I could have gone to Chicago too, something like that, but missed out on getting all of the robber barons. Carnegie Mellon. So,
yeah. Leland Stanford Jr.,
That's right.
who died as a young man. His father, in memory, started Stanford University out on the farm, Palo Alto, California. I know it well.
Yeah, I know, GSP, right?
I went to business school there.
Yeah.
Did we cross paths? When were you at undergrad?
I was there from 06 to 09.
06 to 09.
Yeah.
You're a kid.
Yeah, I am.
And then I was there a long time before.
Yeah.
And then you went to Vanderbilt Law School.
I did.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in New York.
Upstate or
Manhattan.
Manhattan?
Indeed.
What was your family doing in Manhattan?
My parents were business executives.
I didn't know that about you. Manhattan.
Yes.
And so you had never lived in Tennessee till you came to law school.
That's right. My cousins were from here, but I had never lived here until Vanderbilt.
And you made the wise decision
I did.
of moving to state income tax-free Tennessee.
I did, yeah.
Isn't it a great place?
It is. It's fantastic.
It is a fantastic place. Yeah, so you
And I'll say also, my favorite president growing up was James Knox Polk. I named my first son James Knox Starrett after Polk.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. And he got married at the Hermitage because I'm a huge Jackson fan. And so just growing up, I always loved Tennessee history.
You got married at the Hermitage.
I did, yeah.
And your wife was fine with this?
Oh, she loved it, of course.
Did she really? Yeah.
I mean, when we were looking at wedding venues, she was debating between different places. And I said, well, in 50 years, the Hermitage is definitely not going to be a McDonald's. And that clinched it for her. She wanted to be able to go back for our anniversary to a place that was going to be the same thing.
Well, it will be. That's pretty. How does one go about getting the Hermitage as a venue?
Oh, they absolutely let it be rented out.
How many weddings a year do they have?
Oh, I have no idea. But we got actually married in the church that Andrew built for his wife Rachel, and one of the first Presbyterian churches in the state were Presbyterian, and it was pretty cool.
It's beyond cool.
Yeah.
See, all these great things you find out about people when they come in studio and you talk to them about it. We're doing this is a radio talk show, but I got to tell you, this election has changed everything.
Sure.
I mean, there was a time, I don't know if you felt this way, but for a long time, I mean, I've been working on the Tea Party movement for like 16 years.
Yeah.
It's a long haul.
Yeah.
And for much of that haul, there was a fear that the country was like going to have to break in two.
Sure.
I don't feel that way at all now.
Yeah.
It's America.
Yeah. Although I have to tell you, the biggest disappointment to me on election night, and it was a great night, was that we were 1.5 point swing away from 4 more Senate seats. And if those Senate candidates had performed as well as Trump, we'd have 57, which, I mean, as somebody who cares very much about who we confirm to the bench, who we confirm to the Federal Reserve, who we confirm to all these appointments, that matters. And it kills me. It kills me that we didn't get 57.
Yeah, and it's 53, even though Mark Elias is trying to cheat in Pennsylvania. That's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work. But the other ones that you were talking about, we barely lost. Wisconsin, Eric Hovde, a great candidate, lost by like 0.5 point.
Right.
Then
Michigan,
Nevada, Mike Rogers,
and Arizona.
Arizona was beyond the margin, I think. But if Mike Rogers had won in Michigan, he wouldn't be under consideration for the United States for FBI, and everybody would be happy. We'll be back with more after this. We're going to talk about the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Is that boring? No. Actually, it is central. Back after this.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. We're just going to have some fun here with Grant Sterrett. Now, Grant, just a little bit on your background.
Sure.
Vanderbilt Law School graduate, and you've been in real estate development.
So buying old buildings and kind of upgrading them. So, multifamily, all apartment buildings, and buying kind of C class and upgrading them to B class.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
And so you've been very successful in that.
Yeah. So I led the acquisition of about $100 million worth of real estate in Nashville in the last, 10 years.
Great. Well, you know what you're doing, which is terrific. And then you've been involved in the Federalist Society. Just briefly tell everybody what the Federalist Society is and why it's important.
Sure. So Federalist Society was founded in 1982. Antonin Scalia was the original faculty advisor. And it's a group of conservative, libertarian lawyers and people. We have some people who are not lawyers who kind of really want to.
I'm one of the non-lawyers.
Indeed, go back. Who really want us to go back to an original public meaning of our constitutions, and I say constitutions, meaning both Tennessee Constitution and United States Constitution.
Love that.
Most
Love
people,
that.
a lot of people forget that we have both of those. So in that capacity, I host a monthly lunch here in Nashville, and then we do an annual dinner. Our annual dinner this year was Jonathan Skrmetti,
the greatest attorney general, state attorney general in the country.
Indeed,
our frequent guest here.
And then our conference was in fact about his main project, which is strategic litigation.
Exactly, and doing great. So, yeah, if people want to join the Federal Society, where do they go?
So fedsoc.org is an easy way to go do it. And you can search for Federal Society Nashville online, and it'll pop up with our chapter, and you can ping me.
Terrific. Okay, so Elon Musk and sort of the Ben Franklin.
And I should say, so Federalist Society, of course, is a nonprofit C3. That's an extracurricular I do. The opinions I express here are my own, not the C3's.
We have checked that box. Well done. This is Grant Sterrett speaking as an individual for the rest of the hour. So this Department of Government Efficiency is fun.
Yes.
It's the idea of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. It's really a kind of a commission to advise the Office of Management.
Well, they needed that D for Doge.
Yeah. Doge, of course, is a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it's been around since 2013. And it's kind of a funny idea.
Yeah.
But it's really grabbed a hold. They finally put out their plan in a Wall Street Journal editorial yesterday. I want to go to, there are like 7 key points of it, of how they're going to do this. I want to go to the 7th point. Very important. I've been reading about this. You've been writing about it. Tell our listeners what the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 is and why we need to get rid of it.
Well, so actually, let's go back all the way to 1788. And that's when the country first starts out. And George Washington impounds. What is impoundment? Impoundment is this idea that the president does not spend all the money that Congress has authorized him to do so.
Authorized and appropriated.
Well, and this is actually, in fact, the exact discussion about impoundment is what is an appropriation? An appropriation, in one view, which is mine, is an authorization. It is not saying you must spend this amount of money. It is saying you are authorized to spend up to this amount of money.
Yeah, that's the angle. And
Yes.
I think that it's a little confusing because it typically goes in two steps. You'll have legislation that authorizes, which says you can spend, and then the appropriation says, here's the money up to X amount.
Correct. But Washington did not spend all the money he was appropriated. And you can look at president after president after president that did not spend all the money that was appropriated.
I mean, it's a long list.
Correct. I mean FDR didn't spend tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that Congress appropriated. And this guy wanted to spend every dollar he could get his hands on. Now, what you can't do is you can't get appropriated money for schools and then spend it on the military. That would be unconstitutional. But in the same way that Congress could pass a law and say, we need to detain Michael Patrick Leahy for his terrible views.
See, now Congress wouldn't do that. A Chancery Court judge in Tennessee might.
But if Congress were to do so, the president could say, I decline to do so because that would be unconstitutional. Michael Patrick Leahy has a constitutional right to his views. And so in the same way, if, for example, the president did not believe the Department of Education was a constitutional authority, he could simply not spend the money. He could not enforce the law. He in fact has a constitutional duty when he swears on Inauguration Day to uphold the Constitution, to follow it, and not just do whatever Congress tells him to do.
Now, here's the curveball.
Yes.
So Richard Nixon was not spending some of the money.
Yes.
This was all during the period of time that Congress was beginning to and go through the process of impeaching him for any number of things.
Yes.
And now he resigned from office August 9th, I think it was, 1974. He was never impeached by the House. He was never brought up, the impeachment charges never got to the Senate, but he knew that he was about to be impeached by the House and that he would be convicted in the Senate. He was pretty convinced of that, which is why he resigned.
I thought he resigned to spend more time with his family.
That's what he said. So I think it was like July 13th, 14th, 1974, he signs the Impoundment Control Act.
Yeah, so this is the lowest moment in executive authority in the last 100 years. And just because Congress asserts power doesn't mean that it has it. Just because the president asserts power doesn't mean that he has it. And so the Budget Control Act and anti-impoundment, what Congress said is, you can't impound. That's bad. We're not just authorizing. We're saying you have to spend it. Just because they say that doesn't mean anything. So in fact, you said that we need to get rid of it. It would be nice to do so because when the Supreme Court looks at something like impoundment, they look at whether or not Congress and the president disagree about an issue. And so it would enhance the position of the president for impoundment if Congress repealed the anti-impoundment portion of the Budget Control Act. However, I don't think they even need to. I actually think that the president can rely on his exclusive constitutional authority to impound and invite Congress to challenge it.
So this is a good point. He signed that act under duress because he was about to be.
Correct.
Our articles of impeachment were about to come out of the Judiciary Committee. He thought he was playing a political game. If I give him this, maybe they won't. It actually it did not pass by a significant margin in the House. It was like 3-1 in the Senate.
But if the Congress had said, we're passing an act that the president can no longer nominate attorneys general, we're just going to elect the attorney general, right?
Yeah.
And the president signed that act.
Yeah.
It would be unconstitutional.
That's a very good point.
And so the impoundment is a core executive function. And you can go back into the British parliamentary system. I mean, the worry that if you go back to the history of Western and British democracy, everything that where our country comes from a constitutional order, what taxpayers were always worried about was that the government would spend too much money, right? They weren't worried that they were going to spend as much money as they possibly could take. Right? And so impoundment goes back as a very rich history, and as conservatives especially, as conservatives who love originalism in the Constitution, the president should always have this authority. There's one other part of the story, which is that in the 90s, the Republican Congress attempted to give President Clinton a line item veto. And he vetoed something for Giuliani's New York in an attempt to pressure Giuliani into doing something liberal. And it went up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, no, a line item veto is not constitutional at the federal level. But at the same time, you don't need a line item veto if you have impoundment, unless you're talking about a law, which is different.
So Nixon did sign it into law. It is the law. But the argument that Vivek and Elon and Grant Sterrett are making is it's unconstitutional.
Yes, it is unconstitutional.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So let's walk through what happens if President Trump has money appropriated and he chooses not to spend it.
Sure.
And there's I'll give you an example. The FEMA budget, where they spend $850 million to help illegal aliens. That was passed in an omnibus bill. They just threw it in there. Terrible idea. The money's there. He ought not to spend it on illegal aliens.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Now, there are some complications associated with if the federal government has already contracted out something.
I got you.
Because then
there's a contract.
That person has a...
But other than that, let's say there's still some more money hanging around.
Yes.
And he wants to put it to another purpose or not use it for that purpose. And we're going to have to hold on that topic and come back to it after the break.
Great.
My fellow Americans, I have to tell you about my good friends at D.T. McCall & Sons. They have furniture and appliances and a lot more. They've been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years, and they're not going to rip you off. No hidden charges, no delivery charges, no charges for all of the crazy things. These are sick people at the lumber yards. These are very sick people. They charge you for cords and hoses and haul off. They charge you for all of these things. They call them hidden charges. It's the type of surprise that you don't want to see. It's like an October surprise, but it's worse. D.T. McCall & Sons, they're not going to do that. They're great people. They're going to give you a great deal. With locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, D.T. McCall & Sons will give you the deal of your life. Check them out today or go to dtmccalls.com.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, our good friend Grant Starrett, who is, I guess, the educational legacy of the robber barons.
That's right.
Stanford University, Vanderbilt University Law School, real estate investor, all-around good guy, and the head of the Federalist Society here in Tennessee. We're talking more about the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. So let's just say...
So I also want to say there's another aspect of this that is not impoundment, but is a related executive power. And I actually wrote about this in National Review the day that Trump took office the first time, which is to say that the Constitution invests all executive authority into one individual, the President of the United States. So any bureaucrat who doesn't work for Congress or the judiciary, all of their power is derived from the President. And so if the President declined to give that power to such a person, then I think they're out of a job. And so, and it's also important that when we initially passed civil service reform in the 1880s, it only protected people from being hired for bad politics. People who were to be hired meritocratically, but they could be fired for any reason. And so I think that the combined powers, and this is part of what we're talking about with regard to Vivek and Elon's Doge group, of impoundment and the ability to fire people at will, those are core presidential authorities, and the president should assert them. Yeah.
I have a feeling he's going to assert them.
Great.
Don't you?
I hope so. I hope so. He should.
I don't think he's going to... He spent the last 4 years building this up.
So there's basically three ways of going about that latter strategy. One is you find the bureaucrats who are watching porn for 8 hours a day, because they are, right? We've established that, right? And then...
But, come on. Don't they have the freedom to watch porn?
Not on taxpayer dime.
Are you infringing on their First Amendment rights to watch all the porn they want?
But so then you try to fire them, and then they get these crazy due process rights, right?
Right.
So just pick your top 1,000 bureaucrats who are the worst.
Yeah.
And fire them and litigate it so you have a fantastic case. And then it goes to the court, and the court says, actually, these guys don't have due process rights. That's strategy one. Strategy two is you say, actually, this whole agency or department is unconstitutional. I don't like it, right? So I'm impounding all their funds and I'm firing everybody.
I.e. Department of Education.
You could do that.
Did you see this clip that's been going around of Milton Friedman from 1990?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we played it the other day.
Yeah.
The guy from the Hoover...
Peter Robinson?
Yeah, Peter Robinson was sitting with him and said, okay, which departments would you get rid of?
Yeah.
And basically, all of them except for State, Treasury, Justice, and Defense.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. I know somebody...
and Health and Human Services.
I know somebody who went into Commerce Department last time, and I said, you understand your job is to eliminate your job. And she says, oh, don't you like American commerce? I said, yes, which is why I want to eliminate the Department of Commerce.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm with you.
all of which is to say, the third strategy is to really go big, and that's where you literally fire every possible problem. But the risk there is that you're inviting a lot more negative congressional and court attention.
Bring it on. Bring it on, man. Because look, Elon Musk has said it clearly,
Yeah.
the United States of America is going to go bankrupt.
Yes.
I mean, we're totally $35 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
We add $1 trillion in debt, like, what is it, every 100 days?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, there's also a alternative in which we don't go bankrupt, which is worse. And that is that we print so much money that it is worthless.
It's the old Weimar Republic strategy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're buying a loaf of bread with a wheelbarrow full of currency.
Right. So ironically, the problem is that not that we might not have enough money, but that we have too much money. This is a fundamental problem in American government that conservatives really need to get behind, making sure that that Federal Reserve is preserving the value of your dollar.
So the nuts and bolts of this are December 24th, the current continuing resolution on the budget expires. And so there will be an effort in December to either do one of two things, to pass an omnibus budget bill with like 3,000 pages and everything intact, keeping fiscal year 2025 all the way current, good up to September 30th. Or, which I recommend, is they pass a continuing resolution for 2 months, gets it to February, and then all the cuts, all the impoundments, if you will, start beginning in February. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so one of the most important things is to ensure that there are no appropriations beyond Trump's 4-year term. Because if there are, then the next president can just unfreeze the impoundment and pay everything, right? Impoundment doesn't make it return the money to us, right? It just freezes it from being spent. And so that's a significant issue that we need to be aware of. But even if they pass something now, the president could impound, so long as there are no contracts being signed, which is, of course, again, the other issue that we need to be sensitive to. So you could absolutely carve out one thing or another, but those are the lines Republicans should be sensitive to, that they shouldn't be appropriating anything that could be contracted and the president can't reverse, and that they shouldn't be appropriating anything beyond 4 years in any case whatsoever.
Congress has to return to what they call regular order.
That'd be great.
For that to happen.
Yeah.
Now, regular order is basically where all of these appropriations for the budget before the beginning of the fiscal year go through a vetting process. They'll go through a subcommittee.
Oh, and I should note, I mean, we're talking about how defying the Budget Control and Anti-Impoundment Act would be in violation of the statute, right? But Congress doesn't follow its own statutes. Congress is supposed to have a budget every couple of years. And so it's not like the federal government is in complete compliance with every statute that it passes.
Yes. It's been a long time since Congress has actually gone through regular order.
Indeed.
And every time you get Kevin McCarthy, Speaker, and he'd said, well, let's get to regular order. They didn't get to it. Mike Johnson hasn't got to regular order. And as a result, poor members of Congress, how would you like to be a Republican member of Congress? Let's fast forward. It's December 23rd.
Yeah.
We're going to shut the government down unless you pass this omnibus budget. It's only 3,000 pages. Here it is. The vote's tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Right.
You got to vote yes or no.
Now, I will say,
Yeah.
AI may really help Republicans in the future.
Now,
that the opportunity for AI to be like, tell me all the bad stuff in this bill, it could actually be helpful versus 5 years ago where you literally just had to vote to find out what was in it.
Well, that's the famous statement from Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
But also, I remember the start of the Tea Party movement came when Obama threw out like an 800-page bill and said pass it the next day.
Right.
And there were all sorts of private individuals who crowdsourced the review of it and all the bad things in it. But now, this idea of artificial intelligence to go through this 3,000 pages and highlight all the bad things, you know who just might have some experience in artificial intelligence? Elon Musk.
Yes.
Right?
Correct. I completely agree.
And so I think that's part of what the plan is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
With the Doge You said Doge.
Yeah, whatever
Doge,
it is.
whatever.
Yeah.
The Dogecast.
Oh.
I can't wait for the first Dogecast. Could you imagine what that's going to be like?
It'll be fun.
Elon?
Yeah.
Elon. Have you ever met Elon?
I have not now.
Have you met Vivek?
I have, yeah.
He's a smart guy.
He is, yeah.
I went up to, I got the word.
Yeah.
I got the word that he was going to run for president.
Yeah.
And so he and his wife and their comms person, they invited me to his house.
Yeah.
And I spent about an hour and a half just chatting with him.
Yeah.
I said, this guy's smart.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting when you go into a high-profile person like that who's got a lot of dough, they also need a lot of security. So you had to go through a lot of security.
Interesting.
To the guy. Yeah. But a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
And clearly, I'm not saying anything, something that people don't know. When Vivek looks in the mirror, he sees the future president of the United States, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's no surprise.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like him.
Yeah.
A lot of people like him. What is your expectation about this Doge project?
I mean, the biggest worry is that it is a sexier version of the classic Blue Ribbon Commission.
Ooh, I've just got a shudder.
Yes.
A Blue Ribbon Commission, which basically does absolutely nothing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this has no authority. The only authority it has is its influence over the president of the United States, and right now that's high. And we should all be rooting for them. Everybody in right-wing world should be saying, this is fantastic, trust Elon, trust Vivek, these guys are heading in the right direction, etc. Because we want them to be influential, but they have no statutory authority.
Now, the president has said what they're going to do is influence the Office of Management and Budget.
Yes.
Notably, no one has yet been nominated for. I've been surprised by that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the director of Office?
I mean, that's an extremely important job, and we should have the right person on it. Obviously, the guy who leads America First Institute, Russ Vought, was previously
Center for Renewing America.
Yes.
And by the way, Russ Vought,
Yeah.
great guy. Mr. President, I recommend you appoint Russ Vought.
That'd be great.
Because he's been approved by Congress. He's gone through that.
Yeah.
He was deputy director, got confirmed.
Yeah.
Then when Mick Mulvaney left, he became acting. And then he was, for the last 6 months, he was confirmed 5145.
Yeah.
He knows the deal.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that we haven't heard an appointment of Russ Vought.
That'd be great.
But, he's been a little busy.
He has. Yeah.
He's been a little busy.
But and I'll say that Russ's group put out a fantastic history of impoundment that is worth reading. So
when did they put that out? Just recently?
Just in the last year.
Got it. We got to read that.
Yeah, it's very good. It's by Mark Paletta, who's a very sharp lawyer.
Been nominated to be White House counsel.
Correct. Well, no, Paletta's not going to be White House counsel, but
he's going to be somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my
I'll
head.
check.
Yeah,
You are correct. It's not White House counsel. That's
yeah.
what, McGinley.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, but he's got a nomination. So I'll check that out.
Yeah.
When we come back, can we talk about Tennessee?
Of course.
What should we do in Tennessee?
We need a Doge in Tennessee.
Oh,
why not?
What a great idea.
Yeah.
I wonder who might be working on that. Back after this.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. Our guest in studio, Grant Sterrett, who's the head of the Federal Society here in Tennessee. Grant, we've been talking about the federal government. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the state government.
Let's.
What do we need to do here?
Well, I just read something, I think I got this right, that we are spending millions of dollars to ensure that Nashville has a direct flight to Reykjavik. That's taxpayer dollars.
Are we spending money to do that?
That apparently, right? I saw that in the Tennessee Journal.
State money's going there?
That's what I understood that to be the case.
So can I ask you just a question?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
How is it in the interest of the citizens of Tennessee that we subsidize direct flights to Reykjavik Island from Nashville, Iceland?
I have no idea. Well, I would prefer to have whatever it is, a penny more in my pocket than that flight. And I understand Iceland's beautiful, but there's no particular reason why we should be subsidizing that on a regular basis to ensure that we have that hop. But I mean, to this day, Tennessee operates golf courses as the state government. Why? What is the point of doing so? And I keep asking Republican legislators about this. And in fact, one Republican legislator years ago said, we cut government to the bone in Tennessee. And I say, look, we do a great job comparatively, but it is only comparatively to the rest of the United States. We still have a long way to go.
I didn't know there were a lot of Icelanders living in Tennessee.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know that?
Yeah.
Was it the Icelander lobby?
Who knows? Who knows?
Oh my gosh! I saw that story and I said, "Well, that's great." You know, who knew that a lot of people in Nashville want to go to Iceland? Now I know, as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, and again, Tennessee is the greatest state in the union, in my view. But you know, you're only as good as your last budget.
Sure.
I think.
And you know, Mercatus just came out with a.
Tell everybody who Mercatus is.
So Mercatus is a think tank that is grounded at George Mason University, in which, frankly, I think they're doing the best economic work in the country these days. And they just came out with a ranking of states based on regulatory burden. And Tennessee, the greatest state in the union, I agree, is middle of the pack.
Oh. We can't be middle of the pack.
No, we can't be middle of the pack. We should be the most deregulated state that there is. We should be right up there with Idaho.
How do we fix that?
We need to, we could sunset basically every regulation that we have and say in 5 years it'll all be gone unless we go back and put any in, and then we should scrutinize what's going on. This is another opportunity for AI, is to go through our regulatory framework and say, here are our inputs. Train that AI on Thomas Sowell and then see what pops out and is kept around.
So you've mentioned AI.
Yes.
Several times.
Yep.
Our buddy Elon Musk is like big on AI.
Yep.
We've been actually testing out Grok.
Yeah.
When EJ Haas comes in here, we do a dueling AIs.
Okay.
She goes on. She uses ChatGPT.
Sure.
And I use Grok, and we ask questions, and we see the difference.
Yeah.
Grok's a little better.
Yeah.
But are you going to be doing anything in AI?
Oh, I use it frequently, but I am not involved in it professionally in any way.
So we could, I don't know, it seems like it would be a good idea for somebody to develop a particular AI app to do that sort of thing with state budgets.
That would be fantastic.
And then we could...
And regulations, state regulations too.
And well, that's what the Doge guys are going to do, Vivek
Yes.
and Elon.
Correct.
That's actually, of the 7 things they're going to do,
Yeah.
the Impoundment Control Act, to get rid of it was like number 7.
Yeah.
The other 5 of the 7 things had to do with categorizing regulations you can get rid of.
Yes.
Well, we should do that at the state level.
We should.
I think that's something, the Tennessee Star might take a look at.
That would be fantastic.
I've come around on AI.
Yeah.
Because there are some news outlets that basically generate stories totally based on AI.
Yeah.
And I was, I was horrified by that.
Well, AI is only as good as what it's trained on.
That's
an
go.
extremely important point.
There's a way to take the skill, the benefits of AI, but add the human touch.
Yeah.
And to verify it. And that's probably the direction, sometimes you get dragged kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
I'm not. I was kicking and screaming, but now I'm not. I'm saying, okay, it's very complicated, but we're going to go into AI.
The other thing we could do is the legislature could set a regulatory budget and say that we want to be in the top 5 least regulated states in the country, and then you can choose, the governor, what regulations you're actually going to have, right? And we'll approve them, because that is one of the greatest things about Tennessee, is that the legislature actually has to approve regulations, right? But that's it. We're determined to be in the least regulated states out there, and then we just have to prioritize among those regulations.
So to do that, I think we've got an ally as the Attorney General.
Yes,
it would be
100%.
Jonathan Skrmetti.
Yep.
Did I say he's the greatest state attorney general in the country? I don't say that enough.
And in the history of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Let's say
add
that too. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And we know the state legislators, they come in here all the time, and, and they're very open-minded.
Yep.
And the governor, well, he talks to us through circuits. Probably talk to you directly. But, but that's kind of where we need to focus, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I'm passionate about in particular is homeschooling. And while it is the case that Tennessee is not especially burdensome, they still basically require some workarounds. And to this day, I have to teach my kids a foreign language if I go so far. Why? If I want to spend my time teaching my kids calculus fairly early, instead of the hours wasted on teaching a foreign language, which most people forget within 5 years of leaving high school, why is this a requirement that the state is imposing? And by the way, they impose it on everyone who goes to public school too.
Yeah, they do. On that note, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
Will you come back on a regular basis?
I'd love to come back.
All right. We'll have you in at least once a month.
Okay.
And we'll have something fun to talk about each time, because you know what? It's not just morning in America. It's a golden age about to come about, and we want to talk about that.
Great.
All right, thanks. Up next, we'll be back after this. We thank Grant Sterrett for joining us here today
Thank
on
you.
the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Back after this.